Well, hey, everybody. I wanted to give you a garden update. You can see how cloudy it is because the sun is not shining bright here today. We're expecting rain any time. It's been looking like this all day. But look at my plants. They're loving this weather. And I got out here and I put compost tea to all my plants yesterday. And I said if it rains, that'll help wash it down in there, and they'll love that. But I did also come out here, and I have wind that blows toward this planter here. So I put this wire brace to the top bucket handle, and I ran it down to my portable fire pit for temporarily. I was going to run it around this rock, but this rock is concreted in. I can't move it. I said that would have been a perfect thing to anchor that wire to, but I said that portable fire pit is heavy enough that it'll keep it from falling over if the wind blows on it. And I knew it was going to be top heavy since I put the vines going straight up. And you can see some of them are getting taller than the stake is here, so I turn that around there and maybe it'll go up there. But I'll let them go up to the top, and then they can bend over and start coming back down if they want to. But they're growing good. I just hope they produce some good cucumbers and melons for me. And I've got blooms on all my plants like that. I mean, I've got little squash coming on there. I've already harvested, I think it was about 5. And there is my pumpkin. I'm going to have to let the pumpkin just go across the ground because pumpkins get too big to try to put them up on a trellis, so I'm not even going to try. And like I said, this cucumber here, it's going to try to go up the tree. See, it's already latched onto the tree. Well, I'll let it go up a little ways, but then I'll stop it because I don't want it to go too high up the tree. I don't want to have to get a big old 20-foot ladder to go up to pick cucumbers, so. But everything is growing good, and I know if it rains, we've got rain almost every day this week, or chance of rain. But look at all those blooms. I don't know where the bees went, but there's a little cucumber right there. You see there? I don't have anything big enough to pick yet, and those are muncher cucumbers there. My little, this is a dwarf tomato bush, but look how tall it is already. It's about 3 foot tall. And it's planted here with this yellow squash. Cucumber there going up the vine. And I don't know why, but the leaves on the sunflowers, the bottom ones always turn dark. So I try to come out and pick them off. Just drop them down in the pot or end up putting them in a compost tea bucket. Yeah, it's a pretty sunflower up there. It's not very big, but it's pretty. And see, this is the only thing I don't like about planting cilantro here. It gets so hot so fast that you don't even really get a chance to harvest cilantro before it just bolts. It goes to seed and then it dies because it just does not like our Texas heat. And there, look at that cucumber vine. It's reaching for the sky. It doesn't know quite where to go, but I know it'll latch onto that tomato cage there eventually. And it'll be growing with the tomatoes. And see, I got little squash in there growing. Cucumbers there are looking good. They're going on up the trellis like they're supposed to. And look at this. That is my ginger, y'all. I got four spikes of ginger popped up out of the ground. And look at there. That's probably 5-6 inches tall already. So I know I can grow ginger, and we'll see how it spreads out. So I'll know next year I can plant more ginger. Because like I said, I had never tried planting ginger before. But yeah, I like that. I just wish I'd have put it in a bigger pot, but I think that's big enough. It'll work. That's about a 4-gallon bucket, maybe. 3-gallon at least. So I'm thinking it'll be okay there. Got a muncher here. That's a muncher cucumber. Not doing too well in this one for some reason. But see, I don't think it likes this cilantro. See, all my cilantro's bolted. So unless I want to save seed off of it, I could probably just cut it out and plant something else in those pots. My clematis is growing. I mean, it's going on up like it's supposed to on both sides over here. The tomatoes here are just growing like crazy. I've had to tie them up to the arch because the wind was blowing them over, and I'm going to have to stake that one up too somehow pretty soon. And look at this. This is one of the... Look at the way that grows. That is a tomatillo. So I'm anxious to see what kind of tomatillos it produces this year. I got some last year, but they were real small because it was just way too hot on them. And see, I still got pepper plants I'm pulling out. Tomato plants on this side are going on up the trellis. I mean, that's 5 foot tall already. Like I said, those things get like 12 feet. That's one reason I put them on these arches, so they can just go right on up. They'll eventually have to come over and go another way, but I need to do something with this cucumber vine. See if I can get it to go around there. And remember my little bitty tomatoes? Look at that. That's the Ace 55 tomato plant right there. Remember how tiny it was? So it looks like it's going to survive. I just hope it'll produce tomatoes, because I'm anxious to see what the tomatoes look like. And there's that one. And all of these were little tiny ones I put in these pots back here. Cucumber vine over here. It's putting out a little cucumber. So I might get a few cucumbers before it's over with. And my vines are growing out of the cages. So everything is looking good. And look at that tomato plant. It's 3/4 way up the trellis from that blue pot. So that's about 4 or 5 foot tall, that tomato plant is. And there's another one of the little bitty tomato plants that I got out of the greenhouse that I was wondering if it was going to survive. But it has, and look at it growing. And the ones behind it. And then we got this one in this pot that was a little tiny. Look at the growth on it now. And this one over here too. And look at the little dwarf tomato plant right there. And this one, that's I think one that's going to get really tall there. See the name of it. Yeah, that's a golden nugget right there. That's like a cherry tomato that will be kind of a yellowish gold color when it's ripe. And it's really good because I had them last year. So I can't wait to see what it produces this year. That's a Roma tomato. I'm sorry. That was a Roma, not a dwarf. But you can see I've got plants that are coming up. Now, not every seed I put in those blocks have come up. But like I said, sometimes those peppers will not come up real soon. It takes them a while. I have a Brandywine there in the big pot. And the little one is a Golden Jubilee. So that's 2 tomato plants right there that get extremely tall. My collards and my cabbage plants. Tomato plant. And it looks like I've got something chewing on my leaves in here. I'm going to have to do something about that. I don't know how they get in there. I mean, I've had it covered. But I do have a worm or 2 on the leaf, so I got to do something about that. See if I can get in there a little bit. He moved off of that one, but there's some on this one. See, that's the pest you get on cabbage and collard leaves, right there. See? That's one reason a lot of people do not like to plant cabbages or collards. And I thought keeping this thing covered, they would not get on there, but somehow one got in. See if I can get in on this side. Yeah, they're getting in there. I've worked too hard to keep those things alive for some old worm to get in there and eat them up. Let me put this camera down and yeah, that's the only reason I don't like to grow cabbages or collards. Because those worms will devastate anything you plant. I'm going to go get my spray. I think I'm going to spray part of it. But just so you know, this is some of the things you put up with when you do grow cabbages and collards. So you have to be prepared. And again, this is just vegetable spray that you can, it's safe to put on your plants, your vegetables. But if you don't, I mean, they will eat it up. Just leave those leaves I broke off on the ground till the worms are gone. Then I can throw them in my compost tea buckets. There, that should be good enough. But they could have come up from the bottom because the bottom is a little open. I mean, it's not completely closed up. Back down here and put my, I mean, it did help. That's the first time I've seen any on it, so it has helped keeping them off, so that's a good thing. But like I said, I need to take some of those leaves off and put them in the compost tea bucket. That's mainly what I'm growing the collards for, is for the compost. And I can't hardly get in here. My garden space is so tight. Oop, almost stepped on little buddy. Watch out. Go ahead and get the leaves off, the worms off of these that I see, and I can go ahead and put these leaves in the compost tea bucket. Yeah, so that's one issue with growing Brussels sprouts, collards, cabbages, and broccoli, is that you run the risk of getting those cabbage worms on them. And I need to harvest some of my cabbage leaves and cook something with them, because I know they're going to try to head up, and that's when those darn worms are going to try to get on them. So, and I don't want that to happen. I'd rather eat the cabbage leaves than let the worms get them. So, I'm just going to come over here and throw these right in here since I got the worms off. You don't want to put the worms in your compost tea. I mean, I don't know if they'll lay eggs or not, but you don't want to run the risk. But I'd been down with my back for so long, so I hadn't been able to get out here and keep up with my garden very much. But as you can see, my little romaine tomato plant is putting out little tomatoes. There's another little one up here started. So, and my carrots, I don't know. I've been wanting to pull one out and see what's going on. Oh, look at there. I got a carrot. It's a little nubby one, but it's a carrot. So you see, you can, and I think those are the ones that I transplanted. And see, that's what'll happen when you transplant a carrot. If you don't get that root completely straight, it'll grow deformed. But hey, I can still eat that. Probably the ones over here will be straighter because they're not ones that were transplanted. They were, little buddy. Look at here. Little buddy's all up in my carrots. Little buddy, you're something else. Rubbing all over my legs, rubbing all over the carrots. Let me put the camera back a little ways. And you can see him when he comes over here and tries to get in the middle of stuff. I wanted to find one in here and try to pull it out. And see, this one really wasn't big enough to pull yet. And little buddy's gonna knock the camera down. That one really wasn't ready to pull, but I pulled it just to see what was going on with it. But I'm growing carrots, y'all, in my buckets. Little buddy, you are something else. I'm gonna put my carrots down over here. I'll take them in the house. But what I think I'll do is I'll take the tops and put the tops in the compost tea bucket. That's going to make some good compost. So anytime you get greens from your garden, like carrot tops, cabbage leaves, collard leaves, any of it, put it in your buckets. Anytime you get grass clippings in when you mow, if you have one of those catchers on the side of your mower and it catches all of the leaves and the grass clippings, go ahead and put them in your compost. That makes good fertilizer. Your plants love that. And see, I harvested my lettuce and I threw the bad looking part of the lettuce down in the pot to act almost like a compost or a mulch. And I've got more leaves coming back out. See? If you got to harvest your lettuce, you can't just let it grow, because it'll grow and it'll just burn up. And I harvested this one too, and I've noticed I got pepper plants coming up in here. I've got 3 pepper plants. That's a weed. That's a weed. And I don't know, this bok choy, I thought it grew different from that. And I'm pretty sure that's what that is. And I don't like it. I don't think I'm going to plant anymore, because I don't like it. Not the way it grows. You can't harvest and eat it. And my poor walking onions are going crazy. They're walking. They got little onions all over them, putting out even more onions. Look at that. And like I said, you can eat them. I mean, you can take them in and chop them up right along with the green part and eat them as kind of like a green onion, or cook with them. And I should have harvested some of them, but I'm going to go ahead and let them dry, I think, and they'll go to seed. Tomato plants, Look at all those pepper plants coming up. And that was basically from parts of peppers that I threw in there. The little watermelon seems to be growing since I took the marigold out of there. But now this is growing so well and it's putting out okra. Look at there. I got okra. It's not big enough to cut. My little eggplants are not doing too good. And that marigold don't like it in this pot. But you know what? I'm leaving it there. Maybe it'll come back. Tomato plant, look at there. They're all putting out blooms. And I need to trim back my, what do you call it? Asparagus. I need to trim that back. I just let it grow. But I do need to trim it back. Prune it. My peppers. Tomato plant. Oh, look at there. I got a little tomato back in there. If I can find it with the camera. See right there? Little tomato. And I think that's a delicious one. And there's tomatoes right there. Didn't notice them. So I'm going to have some tomatoes before too long. I got blooms on all of them. That means there's going to be tomatoes there too. And here. Got more okra started right there. My tomato plants. My brandywines and my golden delicious. Golden nuggets. My brandywines are putting out blooms. That means I'm going to have some tomatoes on there too before long. I mean, I watered these things yesterday and they're already dry. I mean, they're damp down toward the bottom, but take a look at my little peppers growing here. I got a vine trying to grow. I don't want that there. Looks like I got more of something coming up in there. I know that's grass. I'm not sure about those right there. They may be more pepper seed. That's a weed. That's a weed. That's a pepper. See, I not only get to give you a tour of the garden, but I get to get the weeds out of my pots at the same time. Pepper there. Pepper. And my tomato plant, it's finally started to grow a little bit. My greens, Swiss chard. My yellow squash is finally starting to put out some nice green leaves instead of the yellow ones that it had. So maybe it'll produce me some more yellow squash. Cucumbers and my tomatoes. My lettuce. Peppers. And the sunflowers going up to the sky. They're not open, but they're fixing to. Ain't that right, little buddy? Huh? Yeah. He likes to walk around with me when I'm filming. Yeah, he likes to be in the film too. And there goes my peppers here that I was wondering about. And finally, I got a few more coming up down in there. my leeks, my squash. Look at there. They're not big enough to pick yet, but and I want to put just a little bit of water on that pot over there because it's got seeds in it, and if I let it dry out, those seeds will not come up. The biggest problem about your seeds when you plant them is keeping your dirt damp. And I'm just doing this on account of, I'm afraid I don't know if it's really going to rain or not. They say it is. There's a chance of rain, but you never know. But at least I put a little bit of water there. And see, I got a bloom on this tomato bush. Got blooms up here on the tomatoes, so hopefully I will have tomatoes on this. And look at my little tiny Tim tomato plant. They're starting to pop out of the little holes. And look at that one. It's a little bitty one, but it's got blooms. That's one of those tiny Tim dwarf tomato plants. There's another one. And see, those just have not come out of their little holes yet. I don't know why. And I didn't harvest my broccoli. Not my broccoli, but my Brussels sprouts, and my leaves are turning. And I'm starting to get little worms on them. So I'll have to come out here and harvest what I can and put the rest in the compost tea bucket. But I sprayed these the other day. They should not have. I only saw one. So I think what damage was done before I sprayed it the other day. Yeah, that's the hazards of growing some things like your brassicas. You are bound to get worms on them eventually. That's the reason I go ahead and harvest my broccoli and my Brussels sprout leaves early before the worms get on them. See, they're starting to get on this. Look, see there? You have to watch for that, because they're definitely getting on there. And while I'm here, I'm going to work on this, because I'll forget about it and I'll not come back to it. See? I mean, they're going to get on there if you don't pay attention to them every day. Like I said, I'll harvest these leaves and I'll put them in the compost. I'll make sure the worms are off. And I'll put them in the compost. But see, I didn't have these netted or anything. But they make really good compost. They turn into some really good fertilizer. You just want to get the worms off before you put them in the compost tea bucket. Because I don't know if they can hatch eggs in there or not. But I wouldn't want to take the chance. And you can brush them off with your fingers, and that'll kill them at the same time. And then go ahead and throw the leaves in your compost tea bucket. That's one reason a lot of people stick to just growing tomatoes. And I mean, you can get a tomato worm on your tomatoes, but they don't get on there quite as bad as these type of plants. So a lot of times I'll grow my Brussels sprouts and other stuff just for the compost. Or like, you know, in the beginning of the season, they were fantastic to harvest the leaves. Right now, they're not. It's hotter weather. So the worms want to eat them right now. But I'm going to make them work for me. I'm going to put them in my compost tea buckets. And I'm going to let them make plant food for my plants when I water them. I mean, it's just one of the hazards of growing a garden. And see, this little thing tried to head up. And it's always when it tries to head up is when those darn worms get to them. But I got news for them. They're going to be plant food. They're not going to eat my plants without me getting my plants to do some good for me. Ooh. I had a mosquito on my leg. Yeah, I'm going to put all those in a bucket over here. Ooh, I'm sweating. Sorry about that. Almost dropped the camera. You cannot grow brassicas without dealing with worms. But I got quite a few harvests off of these. And they do get worse in the summertime, in the summer heat, than they do in the cooler temperatures. The heat is what gets the worms started. I need something to cut these with. I don't have nothing out here. I didn't plan on doing this. But, you know, you can see your plant doesn't have to go to waste. You just get the worms off, brush the eggs off, and put them in your compost tea bucket. And when the weather cools off again, it'll start producing a good crop of Brussels sprouts for me. Oh, I'm sweating and it going down my nose. And it tickles. Yeah, I don't really see any on this. But the leaves don't look too good. They're kind of burnt from the sun, and they're not going to be real good to cook, so I'm just going to break them off and put them in the compost tea. I got some buckets out here in the other side of the garden that need some of these leaves. Little buddy, what do you think, huh? What do you think? But do not put them in your compost tea bucket if there's worms on them. You got to get those eggs off, and you got to get the worms off, or they might hatch in your bucket. And then when you water your other plants, you're going to put them on your other plants. So sometimes if you're in doubt, just don't use them at all. See, they get all inside there. That's why I said don't wait for your Brussels sprouts to head up. And I don't want to wait till my cabbages head up either, because you'll end up with worms inside your little heads. Unless you can keep them sprayed good with some kind of insecticide. See any on this one. But they're fixing to get on this one. They got little eggs all down in there. I'm just going to break it off, I think. Not put that in the compost tea. I just scalped it good, didn't I? Woo! Something biting me. I dropped all of them. Look where little Buddy is. I'll let you watch him while I wash these off, because I'm going to wash these off and make sure I have the bugs off, and then I'm going to put them in the compost tea bucket. Well, maybe not. There's too many on there. So see, some of my subscribers were asking me, are you still feeding little Buddy? Is he still around? He stays here all the time. And if he can get in the house, he's in the house. He makes himself right at home. Don't you, little Buddy? Don't you? You make yourself right at home. He sure does. And I got cucamelons coming up. That's that vine in the bottom of that pot right there. At the base of the tomato plant, that's cucamelons. I've planted them 1 year and they've come up from seed in those pots every year since. I haven't had to replant them. Yeah, I'm going to need to make sure I check these more often. Especially this one. It does not look good at all. This one on this side. They like those little tender parts, but they don't look good, so I wouldn't harvest these to eat anyway. So I'm just gonna put them down. Some of them I'll put in the compost tea, the others I'm just gonna throw on the ground. Because those little black spots are actually the worm eggs. And I don't want to put them in the compost. But yeah, this heat is not good for your greens. I mean, some of these are okay. You could cook them, but I don't have enough. Like, see, there's nothing wrong with this. I mean, that head right there, there's no worms, there's no worm eggs on it, there's nothing. I can take that in the house, wash it, and throw it in a pot with some other greens. I think I got a couple of them like that. This one too. So I could mix those in with collards or cabbage and cook them. Put those right there. But these others have got too many black things on them, which I know are worm eggs, so I'm not gonna put those in there. But this handful is gonna go in this other bucket. And I need to get scissors and cut those bearded iris plants, trim those down, and I don't believe it. My red onions that I planted, they're going to seed. Look at that. So I don't know if they'll head up or not, but they're sure going to seed already. But look at this. Isn't that awesome, y'all? And see all those brown leaves? I can break all those off, the ones that are yellow and brown. Break those off and put them in your compost tea buckets. My roses are looking good. My wildflowers are looking good. My peppers, my tomato plants. I got a tomato plant and a pepper there. Tomato plant there. My clematis. But look at that. That's the winter squash. Look at the vine. Both of those big vines, that one there and that one at the far end, that is a winter squash or shark fin squash. So I should be able to harvest some shark fin squash off of that vine. Or those two plants anyway. And my cucumbers. Ooh, look what I see. Look what I see. Look at that. That's a cucumber. That's a muncher right there. And he's almost big enough for me to pick. That's a cucumber, y'all. I'm looking to see if I see any on these two. They got plenty of blooms, but I'm not seeing a real cucumber. Well, yeah, I see the start of a couple. Like right there. Now under my finger right here, that's a cucumber started. Where that flower is, there's one right there. That's a cucumber. If it matures, I'm hoping it does. Cucumber there. Still got the flower on it. Look at there. And I'm getting blossom end rot on some of stuff this year, and I've never had that before. And I think it's because of the inconsistency in the rain. I mean, it rains and then it stops, and then it dries out, it rains, and then it stops, and I can't keep it watered enough. So that's another problem you run in. If you don't keep them consistently watered, they will get blossom end rot. Or if those flowers don't get pollinated, those cucumbers won't develop. And see there, I got squash started in here. Your tomatoes, you don't have to worry about them being pollinated. Tomatoes don't have to be pollinated to produce tomatoes. But your cucumbers and a lot of this other stuff does. And I don't know what's happened to this. I guess maybe a squash borer worm or something got to the plant, or maybe I didn't keep it watered enough. I have no idea. I watered it good yesterday. But this one's putting on a little ball. That means that's going to be trying to be a melon or a cucumber. Like I said, I've planted so many different vines, and some of them died, some of them survived, till I don't really know which is the cucumbers anymore. There's something right there. I don't know if it's a melon or a cucumber. And I got pepper blooms. I should have some bell pepper, hopefully. And see, I still haven't pulled my potatoes. I wanted to do that and see if I had any potatoes down in there. But I'm going to have to dig them, I guess, because these plants are died. And that's when you need to dig your potatoes, is when your plants die off like that. But I haven't dug any of them. I don't know if I've got potatoes down in there or not. I have to dig them. Oh, I'm just breaking them off. I need to get something to dig them. Need to get my trowel. Or my little fork thing that I've got. And see what we got going on. Because I didn't really care if I had potatoes there or not. I didn't plant them there. They just came up on their own. And if there's not potatoes there, I know I can just go ahead and plant something else in that spot. Let's see what we can do. Get the camera here to where you can see what I'm doing. And I'll get on the other side. But that's going to be some good dirt to plant something else in. And even the vines will be a good. I don't see any potatoes, y'all. Well, there's one started, one little bitty one. One little bitty potato. I guess the heat's too much for them. So I'm going to leave the rest of them and see what they'll do. I'm not going to dig up any more of them. Or I might dig up some of this to see what's over here. Yeah, see? And that plant was still alive. I should have left it. Oh, and I dropped my potato. See there? It started producing potato. There's a little potato. I may stick it back down in there. It still might grow. I mean, the potato peelings grow. Why not the potato? Put it in there and give it a chance. I'll stick this one back in there too, because the roots are still on it. But we need rain. We need rain. I'm gonna lay that right there for now. I'm sorry, I get right in front of the camera and I don't mean to. I had to shorten the legs. But isn't that a pretty shark fin squash plant? It should produce some squash for me this year. I haven't seen any on it yet, but I guess it's a little early. Ooh, there goes a lizard. I lost him. He went under the bucket. Can't find him now. But look at that. As little as that plant is, I've got a melon right there. Look at that. So I should have some melons. I don't know if that's a honeydew or early dew melon or what that is, but or cantaloupe. But look at my Swiss chard, how it bounced back after me just almost massacring it the other day. My leeks, my squash. See, this either means that it didn't get pollinated good or the watering was too inconsistent, one or the other. First year I've had that problem with my squash. Never had that before. And see, that cabbage wants so bad to head up, but I chopped it all up the other day. Make sure there's no bugs getting on it. And my watermelon. That's my crimson watermelon. It's got blooms, but so far I don't see a start of a melon yet. And I gotta watch where it grows. I don't want it to grow up on the totes. You got squash down in there started. And I'm going to have to spray that. Let me go get my spray right now while I see it. Because if I don't, I will forget it. And those little eggs are just all over that plant, that squash plant. That means that some little friendly thing flew by and proceeded to lay eggs on my squash plant. And I don't want that. So, I mean, I'm just telling y'all the truth. I don't want to hide any of this stuff. Because gardening is a job. Sometimes you'll plant a plant and worms will just take it over and eventually kill your plant if you don't spray it. Sorry about that. Little buddy went right by my camera and turned it over on me. He tilted it. See, there he is. He's over there out of the way now. But he came by the leg and brushed it like he was trying to make the tripod leg pet him. Usually you don't have this bad a problem with squash. But that's aphids, y'all. And they will kill your plants, and they'll spread to all the other ones too. I'll just give this thing a trimming. That'll help get some of them. Oh, it's starting to rain, y'all. And I put wood chips around it, trying to keep any of the dirt from splattering up. I'm just going to cut those blooms off and everything. It will just come back out and bloom again. The plant's not really big enough to put out that many blooms. Cut it off and let it come back out. But go ahead and finish this tour before it gets to raining so hard I can't finish. But there is my other vines. They're growing, all growing. Look at that. I got a squash. Got a squash down in here, but look at that. Well, it's one of the melons or a squash. I'm not sure which. I hope it just comes a good soaking rain. On these plants. And look at that. That's either a winter squash. I know it's not a shark fin. Look at there. That cucumber keeps getting bigger and bigger. That's one of those big old long ones. It gets about 1 foot long. And that's the only one I see on there so far. I hope it doesn't do like last year. I planted some on the other side of the yard, that same kind of cucumber. It had 1 cucumber on it. And it didn't even reach maturity, and then it died. And that was the only cucumber I had on the whole thing. It may not have been getting enough water, I don't know. So you got to keep your plants watered. Even though there's, you know, water reservoir in the bottom of my totes, that'll dry out too if you don't keep them watered. And you don't have water in the reservoir anymore. Look at that. Looks like a half moon right now. I thought it would grow more straight than that. It might straighten out the more it grows. I don't know. But yeah, that's a, looks like maybe a winter squash. And I got aphids trying to get on this. They'll attack plants if they think they're in distress. Maybe they're not getting enough water. And I got peppers or something coming up there. Must be from seed. But yeah, maybe it'll come a good shower and wet my totes down and help my stuff live. Those cabbages are okay since I harvested them. They've come back, put out more leaves, and they look fine. Like I said, you got to keep water to everything. And look at those. My rose bushes. Remember, they were the ones that were struggling? But I kept putting compost tea to them. Now look at them. They've grown quite a bit now. I think they've taken root real good, so they'll grow and be pretty. Right along with these. It's hard to imagine they started just this past winter from just a little stick of a rose cutting, and now they're rose bushes. My okra. Got a little okra right there. Not big enough to cut though. Got okra started there. One there, it's all curled up. And our rose bush right there is still growing strong. I mean, it's about to be overrun by the wildflowers, but it's okay for now. But look at that. Isn't that something? They're all over my yard. Look at that. I hope you can see them in all this grass. All these flowers. All on this side. All out here. That's one thing I realize you can have in your yard. You can have decorative plants of any kind or decorative grass. So I've got decorative flowers. They're growing all around the fire pit. All out there to the rose bushes. Here. Around my bird feeders. My rose bushes. And that other little wildflower that come up again this year. I got another one too coming right there. See, they're little, but they're growing and they're putting out roses, so I can't complain. This one, I just don't know. Maybe it needs more water, more compost tea, or more something. That must be one of the white roses. And it grows a little bit slower than these knockout roses. That one's got a bud. That one just had one open. It's got another bud on it, fixing to open. That one. And that one's got buds at the top. So I think if they got a little bit more sun, they'd grow faster. But I'm not complaining. And this one's getting buds all over it. So I'm fixing to have a bunch more roses open on this. And my bluebonnet looks like it's been dropping seeds. See there? Little pod was open. It's already dropped the seeds out of it, I think. Yeah, I think they have. I think it's dropped seeds. Yeah, those pods have opened. Well, most of them have. This one hasn't. If I can show you the seeds inside. I'll put this camera down and see if I can show you what I've got in my hand. See, that had a couple of seeds still left in there. See? 3 seeds. And I'm going to throw them right down there where they would have fallen. Because I want my bluebonnets to spread out here this year. But all of these, most of them have busted open and the seeds have fallen. Oh man. I hear thunder. That's the reason I didn't get out here and try to do anything in the yard today, is because it was supposed to rain. Look at there. I got yellow squash started in here, and this is the wishing well. Right along with my flowers, my sunflowers, my cucumber. I got a cucumber vine or a melon vine one, I don't know which it is, growing in here. And I'm just going to let it go crazy. It can go where it wants. And I got one there. Right along with my moonflower, and one of my moonflowers put out a flower and it turned to a seed pod. See there, that's a seed pod. That little ball right there, that's a seed pod. You got to let it dry. It'll turn all brown and get dried and crack open, and that's when the seeds are ready. Yeah, my moonflowers out here need water, and I haven't been able to keep water to them. They're wilted down right now. We need some good hard rain. And see, my cabbage is growing back since I scalped it, sprayed it, got all the worms out of there, so it's growing back again. Hopefully this time I won't get worms in there, maybe. And I don't know, the wildflowers and the moonflowers just won out of these pots. And I had planted marigolds, zinnias. See, there's a little marigold trying to survive. But the only thing that survived so far is a little bit of this white flower. I do have a marigold right there that survived. But mostly it's the zinnia. I got a zinnia right there. Moonflowers. And the wildflowers that are seed that came up in it. So see, that's why I want the wildflowers. They will grow and survive and drop seed and multiply when the other plants will not grow here. See all of them there? They will all drop seed, and I'll have 3 times, 4 times, 5 times as many of those flowers around this yard from these flowers next year. I tried to break the leaf off, but it's not coming. But look at there. I got a little tomato right there. And I'm not sure what kind of tomato that is, because that's the one that come up from a volunteer. It was a volunteer plant. These over here are Brandywines, I think, or either Golden Jubilee. But they're cherry tomato types. They need more water. And those have buds up there. Sunflowers got a big bud there. But they're getting ready to put out some tomatoes. This dry heat, you just can't keep it watered enough. My garlic. Look at there, I got sunflowers coming up in here. I didn't realize I put sunflower seeds in there. I think they were the small ones. Oh, I wanted to show you too. See, I told you I had one patty pan seed that sprouted. I don't know why the others didn't. I think I put like 4 in there. I don't know why just that one is the only one that's come up. I may have to stick another seed or 2 in there. I really wanted more than one plant of the patty pans. You know, the white brown squash. And see, I got worms on that. That just reminds me of why I didn't plant Brussels sprouts. Well, not Brussels sprouts, but broccoli. This is a broccoli, and it's full of worms. Look at that. And I don't like to use all that spray. So I may not plant any more Brussels sprouts or broccoli. Just for that reason. I'll stick with the stuff that I've been planting that I don't get all that on. See, look at that. Isn't that terrible? I mean, it's terrible when they devour your plants like that. I mean, it was growing good. But it's just covered in worms. And like I said, I don't want to put them in the compost tea with worms in them. Put them out there. We'll see what happens when they come back. But that volunteer tomato plant's growing good. Right in with my marigolds and my mums. It's kind of pretty, I think. Sunflowers are getting kind of lanky, though. And I've been watering them. I've even got zinnias coming up down in the bottom down there from the seed I put in there. Zinnias and marigolds. So, I don't know what's going on. My daylilies are blooming. My crepe myrtle has survived. I need to get some more compost tea to that crepe myrtle. And that little rose bush is surviving and just growing like crazy. Look at all the brown growth on it, the new growth. I need to pull these other wildflowers out. These things right here, because they don't ever look real good. I pull them out every year, but they come back from the roots. There's that crepe myrtle. It's one I just planted this past year. And of course the other ones that I planted. Oh man. And the daylilies out here are finally opening. And my purple mums are blooming. Right there. Right along with more daylilies. More purple mums. Mums there haven't opened yet. They need more water. They just need a lot more rain. And I got purple mums there. I need to put water in the bird bath. It's dry. And the mums up there in the top of the fountain is blooming. They got tons of blooms. And he's fixing to bloom down here too. Gladiolus come up. We just need rain. White rose bush, it's got a spider web on it. And the coleus that we started in here is growing good. You know, that was just the cutting that we broke off and stuck down in the dirt. Kept the dirt wet. And it's rooted another plant. And that's going to be pretty. I'm going to turn it so it keeps going toward the sun. So it makes it grow sideways. So it's going that way because that's the way the sun was. So I turn it. Now it'll go back that way. It'll go back that way. And it'll help straighten it up. Yeah, look at that rose bush. It's getting pretty big, considering how small it was when I put it there. That one is too. The white rose bush. And here's this other knockout rose bush. It's getting pretty tall. It's about 1.5 feet tall. It's got a bud at the top. Another one. These out here are not blooming yet. We just need more rain. It keeps hinting on raining, but then it don't rain. It'll sprinkle a little and stop. And that's bad for your plants when you got to get out there and give them every drop of water that they get. They struggle that way. See, these are struggling. Got a tomato bush down in there trying to grow. Needs more water though. And I keep trying to put compost tea to it, my dishwater and stuff. But needs more water than I've been putting there. And there's my mandevilla. It's getting pretty. I mean, it's growing. Trying to go up the bamboo stick. It's just not growing very fast. But it's got another shoot come out on it. Right there. Got one here that's come out on it. I can't wait till it starts blooming. And I got squash and cucumbers. Here, I need to put that vine wrapped around through there so the vine will latch onto that bamboo and go straight up. Because see, I got a yellow squash and it's trying to put out some little yellow squash in there. If I can keep it watered. That's the problem with my other ones. They're not getting enough water all the time. And see, the coleus in here has rooted and it's trying to grow. And what I need to do with that is turn the pot because it's growing toward the sun. And I can move it back this way now because I moved that plant that was there, that box. But I need to turn it this way so the coleus will straighten up because it'll grow crooked when it grows toward the sun. Then we skipped over my big old half wine barrel of flowers. They're growing real good. Look at that. And that tomato plant, look at there. It's shot out to the side. It's going to grow right over toward that arbor. And I'll just fasten it to the arbor when it gets over that far. So the arbor can help secure it. But see, that's a squash and a cucumber plant. But don't you think that's pretty? And it does have pretty yellow flowers on it when it's blooming. So I don't mind planting those up front to where people see them. They're pretty plants. And my squash or zucchini has finally taken off and started growing some in this. I was kind of worried about it for a while. But this one is just, it's given in. I don't know if it's going to make it or not. It's got a tomato plant in there. It's got a sunflower. But we're kind of back where we started, aren't we? Right here. Like I said, I don't really see cucumbers started yet. It's got plenty of flowers. But I don't see cucumbers yet. It's probably a little bit too soon to see the cucumbers start. It's got plenty of flowers though. If I have a cucumber for every flower, I ought to have some cucumbers. Well, what did I do? But anyway, yeah, we need rain because maybe I need to get this can't even think. This cilantro that's went to seed and it's dying out of there because it's probably pulling a lot of the moisture. And I've got seed in the house for cilantro, so I don't need the seed. Sure smells like cilantro. I can put something else in that little pot. I don't know what yet. Maybe a pepper plant or something. But see, that cilantro is nothing but seed. I mean, you really can't harvest anything off of that. It's just too hot here for it. Cilantro does not like hot weather. And it doesn't matter how much you water it, it's going to bolt. So, and see, I can get plenty of seeds off of that plant and that one right over there if I want more seed. But I don't know why I would, because, you know, I plant it, it grows, it produces a plant, and then about the time it's ready to harvest, it just bolts and all turns to seed and the plant dies. So I don't know if I'm going to even plant any next year. But I wanted to give you an update on my garden. There's an update on my garden, y'all. Go back here. Get in the picture. I hope your garden is doing well if you planted one. I appreciate you hanging out with me today, spending time watching my video. But I just wanted to let you see what my garden's up to. And I hope yours is doing well if you planted one. Please like, share, and subscribe to my videos. Y'all have a blessed day, and I will see you on my next video. Bye now. Let me find the button to turn this off.